Hello, Leaf Nation. So this is for all of my followers. So I have over 300 followers, and I want to thank each and every one of you publicly. I have sent each and every one of you a private message, a DM, saying thank you. If you did not get one, I missed it in the feed. So just hit me back up and say, hey, you missed me, and I will thank you. I've been having conversations. I can handle about 1,000 conversations at one time, so I have room. So if you're not following me and you're like, he's gonna be too busy, trust me, I'm fine. But this video is for you. This live session, which will then go on IGTV, is for you. This is who I am. And what I forgot to do, again, I'm learning. I'm new to social media. I'm not new to education. I have 20 years of experience. But what I forgot to do is what teachers do every year is they introduce themselves to their class, and I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm doing that now. My name is D. Scott Schwartz. I am a former teacher, principal, and superintendent. I have 20 years of hard-earned experience, and I have the battle scars to prove it. But why I'm here is what I need to tell you. So in 2013, I started an education think tank called Education Development Institute. Now, the reason I started that was because at the time, I was a principal and superintendent in a school, and I was getting phone calls from teachers, child study team members, Board of Ed members, directors of special services, and principals as to how can we do what you're doing in your school in our public, charter, and elite private school. Now, you're probably wondering, why would anybody be calling me? Was I at marketing? Was I advertising? No, I was doing what you do, which is just my job. That's it. I had my head down, I worked with my teachers, I worked with my students, and all we did and all we focused on was 100% on our school building and what was happening inside it. But what was happening was so groundbreaking to everyone else that they started to come to us. And so let me explain what was happening, and then you can understand why I started the Education Think Tank. So basically, my students were defying odds. They were defying the statistics. There was no reason that my students should be successful. In fact, they had all the external factors that everyone points to as to why the K-12 school system fails, is broken. It's broken because of lack of funding. It's broken because of external factors, socioeconomic, poverty, kids from urban schools, trauma, neglect, abuse, mental illness, disability, everything under the sun, which explains why things are not working, right? So you can see, like, if a kid's struggling in school and you're like, well, does he have any one of these external factors? Oh, it makes perfect sense. That's logical. What was happening in my program is that we were basically ignoring all of those external factors, and our kids were succeeding. We didn't solve one external factor. I didn't solve homelessness. I had kids that were homeless. We didn't solve poverty because my kids were still in poverty. They were eligible for free and reduced lunch. We didn't solve that. I had kids that were being raised by grandparents, aunts, uncles because parents were either dead, in jail, left. We didn't solve any of those problems. We didn't even solve the neglect and abuse issue other than legally protecting the kid and making sure that they had a safe place to live. In some cases, I had kids who were wards of the state. They didn't even have parents. They lived in group homes. Yet all of these kids are succeeding in school. In fact, here's one story. We called a snow day. I'm in New Jersey. We have snow days. I don't know, most of the country may not even, like California, probably don't even know what a snow day is. But we had snow days. I had kids who would call the school after we canceled school. They would call and leave a message and say, why did you cancel school? Do you have students who are asking why you canceled school? I don't think so. I think your kids are going, when they cancel school, yay, with no school. No, my kids didn't want to not go to school. So we didn't market to anyone. This gets around because kids talk and parents talk. So parents are telling other parents. And so they're going back to the school district and saying, hey, to teachers, hey, do you know about this school? And they're like, I've never heard of this school. What are you talking about? They go to the principal. Have you ever heard of this school? And they're like, never heard of this school. They go to the superintendent. Have you ever heard of this school? They're going, we never heard of this school. They go to the Board of Ed. You see how this progresses. So eventually what happened is I started getting phone calls from all of these people. They wanted to come visit the school and observe the school and the classroom and understand or just ask questions like, how are you overcoming all of the problems of society without solving society's problems, and yet the kids are succeeding? Okay? So in the beginning, okay, I said fine. Hey, so I let in over like a 4-month period, probably let in like 10 visitors. Now, here's the problem for that. It started to become a distraction to my teachers. And because I'm a good leader, I listened and they were like, you can't keep letting strangers into our classroom. It's disrupting what we're trying to do. They're like, we understand that you like showing this off. And I said, okay, you're right. You're right, absolutely. I want you to be proud of what you do. I thought, and that's why I'm listening, I thought that by showing off what we're doing and by them seeing what you do as a teacher was showing how amazing you are. Understand, what you're doing is shocking them. They're like, how is that happening? How are you getting kids who are failing in every other situation to be highly successful? Without test scores, mind you, like seriously, test scores mean nothing. How are you doing that? And I said to my staff, I said, I want you to be proud, but I don't want to be a problem. I don't want to be an annoyance, a bothering. Your time is precious and what you do is monumental. So, no more visitors. Problem is that I got more and more calls because now that I'm saying you can't come, oh my God, the floodgates opened and everybody was like, well, now we have to come. We're not allowed. Now we want to come. So I was getting hundreds of phone calls a week. So in 2013, so this is all prior to 2013, because like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. So in 2013, I decided to start the Education Development Institute, an education think tank, to put into writing and structure everything we were doing so that I could then do like seminars and workshops and lectures on what our school model was. Now, I did that pro bono because I'm dumb. I am not a business person. I wish I was. I will tell you this. I can create millions of things that could probably make hundreds of millions of dollars, but that's not my purpose. It's not teachers' purposes. Teachers don't go into teaching to be millionaires. It would be nice. And my school, part of the program was that when you retired, you actually retired a millionaire. Yeah, listen, you retired a millionaire. So there's a whole bunch of things that we just need to restructure in school, but we didn't solve any external problems. We only solved school problems. Now, the one thing that I promised teachers when I hired them, which is why I had a waiting list for teachers who wanted to work for me, is because I said to them in the interview, I am going to take off your plate and your shoulders all of the responsibilities other than the one, which is you are the teacher. That is it. I don't want you to be a social worker. I don't want you to be a parent. I don't want you to get involved in the kids' lives in home. I don't want you to. I just want you to focus 100% of your attention on teaching. That's it. So they were like, okay, that sounds great, but you don't mean that. And the reason that teachers kept wanting to work for me is because I actually did. And I took off all of those responsibilities. Now, part of the structure, and I'll do another video on the school model, but part of the structure was, so if you think about your classroom, you're a teacher and you have 20 to 25 students in your class. And now in urban districts, you may have made 30 to 40 students, okay? So my classrooms were 14 to 16 max kids. First of all, that was in compliance with state law because all of my kids were special needs. All of them. So you have a classroom, 14 to 16 max kids. Now, on top of that, I also had a team of social workers, and they had caseloads of 20 to 25 kids each. That meant that if I had, because enrollment was changing all the time. So if we had 200 kids, that meant that I had to divide that by 25 to get the number of social workers I needed. Okay, so sometimes I had a lot of social workers. But basically, there was a whole nother layer of education right underneath the teacher. So if the kid had a problem in class, the teacher didn't need to, they just needed to address the classroom problem. They didn't need to address the kid problem because they would tell the social worker, and then the social worker would then deal with the student problem. So that's how the support came. And so that's why kids in my school were succeeding much more, because when they came to the school, they were really important people. And we made them feel important. The VIP status? Well, kids love being VIPs. So we made them feel like VIPs every single day. And they didn't want to lose that. So when we called snow days, it was like, but I'm home. But at home, no one pays any attention to me. I don't want to be home. I want to be in school. I like school. I want school. I want my teacher. That's the difference. So that's the reason why I started Education Development Institute in 2013. I put all these things together, and I was working now 2 jobs. So I was working my real job, which I was 2 roles. I was a principal and a superintendent at the same time. And now I was running an education think tank. So I was working like 80 to 90 hours a week. And again, I was only getting paid for the day job. I was not getting paid for the night job. And I ran workshops, lectures, a whole bunch of stuff for a lot of school districts. I reached nearly 5,000. I think the count was 4,687 total educators came to one of my things and learned with me in New Jersey. And so again, the reputation started to get out there. And so in 2017, I was invited by the New Jersey Legislature's Joint Committee on the Public Schools to testify before their public hearing as to how we can change schools. Unfortunately, as everything happens in our society, my little voice made no impact. Even though parents and thousands of educators were saying, this is what we want, it didn't make any impact in the whole society because 4,687 educators don't overshadow 8 million people that live in New Jersey. And so it's a numbers game. So when the pandemic started, and I'm going to be transparent, I actually stopped working in 2019 because I broke my leg. And I couldn't walk for about 6 months. And I was actually in the hospital for a month, and then I went to rehab for another couple months. So I wasn't even home for a long time. And so I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't really walk. I was trying to do a whole lot of rehab, and I'm sure you've seen people do rehab, and you have Alex Smith, you even have Kevin Hart, you have Tracy Morgan. All these people have gone through all of these really heartbreaking rehab stories. I had the same one, it just wasn't public. It was just what I did. And so now, I can walk, I can almost run, can't run yet. But I'm not physically able to do the job that I want to do in a school. And so I decided, along with all of the health concerns, that I needed to continue to not be in a school. And so I've been trying to find jobs outside of the school system. It's not easy because people don't want to hear that I know what I did. They don't want to hear it. And so I wanted to give you, my followers, this story, this introduction to who I am so that you really understand who you're following. And I hope that you not only think that this story is worthwhile, but that you will share this story with other educators. My goal is to connect every teacher in North America to each other. That's my goal. I want to create the largest community of teachers because I think together teachers can fix the system. We don't need the externalities. We don't need our government. We're going to need them to change some things, absolutely. But we don't really need them. Teachers are smart. Teachers are amazing. Teachers are dedicated. Teachers are independent. Teachers are thinkers. Teachers solve problems. Teachers are the answer. And the issue that I see and that I tried to get away out of my school was I didn't want anyone to interfere with the teacher. Your time is valuable. Your time is a resource. And so I used to do everything I could for my teachers, way more than anyone else in any school, which is why principals actually came to me. And one of the things that I did in the Education Institute was I started a principals academy to help principals be better at their job, which happened to be lowering the amount of time they spent on certain things. Now, there's a lot of discussion, which is the reason why I was like, you know what, I need to make this video. There's a lot of discussion on Mr. Reed's account on lesson planning. And there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of anger. And I want to say to any teacher out there, I understand why you're angry. You had negative experiences with outsiders trying to come in and tell you what to do. One, I'm not an outsider. Two, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. What I want is I hope that you will allow me to explain what happened in my 20 years and in my school. And then you can make the judgment to say, that sounds awesome. That would help me. And if it helps you, follow this account. If I don't provide any value, if what I'm saying to you, you're like, I don't give a crap, then don't follow me. It's fine. I'm not here to get in your face. But what I'm telling you is that we cracked the code in my school. And it's not impossible to do in your school. So it doesn't have to do with funding. It doesn't have to do with resources. But leadership needs to have better resource management. Teachers need a curriculum that makes sense. And then they need lesson plans. Now, the discussion was about writing lesson plans and being required to turn them in. And it just is like, here's the simple answer. Teachers need to write lesson plans and they need to turn them in. Here's the question. How often and do they need to rewrite them? That's really it. And I don't even think teachers disagree with that. But if teachers don't have high quality lesson plans, and I'm going to define what a high quality lesson plan is. It is a lesson plan that focuses on critical thinking skills, analyzing, evaluating, and creating on the Bloom's taxonomy, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else. You also need a lesson plan because you have to make sure that you're differentiating. And if you don't think about it, you're not. Because so I'm in a problem with the communication with Instagram because all I can really do is auditory learning. You have to listen to me. Because I haven't figured out how to do captions yet. So if you know how to do captions, tell me, because it would help with some visual learning. But I still don't have the kinesthetic part. We need to differentiate so that people understand what we're saying. And kids need to understand what you're saying. It's not that your lesson sucks. In most cases, I need you to understand this. I've observed well over 10,000 lessons. In most cases, it's not the lesson that was bad. It was the differentiation that didn't let the kid access it. They just were like, they were confused. And the confusion then became a problem. Not the lesson, not the teacher. Like, be very understanding that when you have a principal that knows what they're doing, they can pinpoint it and be like, that was there, right there. Do you see it? It's just like if you're creating content, like if you're a teacher that writes lesson plans and tries to sell them, you have to really critically look at your lesson plan and be like, is this as good as it can get? Is this going to help another teacher? Because if it brings value, you're going to make more money. Well, it's the same thing in a classroom. If it brings value, kids are going to pay attention. So it's got nothing to do with ADD. It's got nothing to do with ADHD. It's got nothing to do with disability. It's got nothing to do with attention spans. It's got nothing to do with the external forces. It's just got to do with, does my lesson make sense? And does it bring any value? And if you answer those two things, you can grab the attention of any kid for as long as you want. So I want to thank you. That was my story. If you have any questions, please DM me, let me know. And I hope that you share this with others. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.